Today I'm continuing my Dehydrating 101 series, and I want to talk about the best way to dehydrate different herbs, because each herb kind of needs its own unique treatment. Hi sweet friends, my name is Mary and welcome to Mary's Nest. This channel is all about living the simple life by cooking from scratch, making home remedies from homegrown herbs, and creating a cozy home with charming thrift store finds. If you're like me and you like living the simple life, be sure to subscribe to my channel and click on the little notification bell that'll let you know every time I upload a new video. What I've got here are a sampling of herbs that I cut from my herb garden. Now I live in Central Texas and I'm in Zone 8, 8B I believe to be specific, and most of these herbs winter over beautifully and actually grow better, specifically like flatleaf Italian parsley, in our cooler months, and then will tend to bolt in the summer months. But so this is what I have right now in the winter months. I've got flatleaf Italian parsley, I've got some chives here, I've got peppermint, and mint also does well in the cooler months here. It struggles in the heat of our summers. And then I've got oregano. This does well all year long. And then I've got lavender, which also does well all year long. I only have the leaves because we won't get the flowers, the lavender flowers, until the spring. And then I've got rosemary, which also does well here all year long. So what I want to talk about today is the different ways that I dehydrate these herbs. Now the first herb that I want to talk about is the Italian flatleaf parsley. This is a very delicate herb, and if you dehydrate this in an electrical dehydrator, it'll dehydrate probably pretty quickly. Now the rule of thumb is that herbs can take up to 12 hours. But as you know, herbs vary. This is very different than, say, rosemary or bay leaves. So what you want to do is at about 4 hours, you'll want to start checking your herbs. And then you'll start to learn which herbs will be dehydrated within 4 hours, which herbs will need 8 hours, which herbs will need 12 hours. Now, parsley will probably dehydrate in about 4 hours. But if you don't have an electric dehydrator or you just don't want to run it, parsley dehydrates very nicely just in the air, right in a warm kitchen. And all I like to do is just spread it out. Now my herbs have all been washed and dried, and I tried best I could. Here are some ones that are, you know, a little less than looking great. I tried to, pick out any leaves that didn't look particularly attractive. But then what I'll do is I'll just spread this all out on my baking sheet, and I've got a little rack in the baking sheet which helps with aeration. But if you don't have that, don't worry. You can just put down some parchment paper that kind of helps with moisture absorption, and you can just do like this, and you will be amazed how come the next day this will probably be dried out and it'll just crinkle all up, and then you've got it ready to use. And if you want to speed up the process, you can go ahead and put this in a cool oven. If your oven goes to 150 degrees or 170 degrees or 200 degrees, whatever the lowest temperature is, and you can go ahead and put this in your oven. And again, just go back and watch the video that I talked about, where I talk about different types of equipment you use when you dehydrate. Because when you dehydrate in your oven, whether your heating element is on the bottom or the top, you'll want to put one oven shelf with a piece of parchment on it to protect the herbs from getting direct heat coming down from or up from the heating element. Now, if you do this in the oven, you'll want to keep the door propped open slightly to allow for some aeration, and you'll want to make sure that you're at home. And using the oven in this way to dehydrate flatleaf Italian parsley, it'll dehydrate very quickly. You'll want to keep your eye on it, but again, surely within 4 hours or less, it should be dry. Now another option when it comes to drying herbs, and in this case, the parsley, you can make little bunches, and I recommend not making your bunches too thick because you do want to allow for very good aeration, is to simply take a group like this and then just take a little kitchen twine. And all you're going to do is tie them up into a little package and then you're going to want to hang them in an area that is warm but out of direct sunlight. And some people will even hang them up in their attic from the rafters and let them dry up in the attic, because direct sunlight can really be the enemy of drying herbs. But if you want to dry them in the kitchen, you can, and put them in an area, you know, as I said, out of direct sunlight. And something that you can do is put a little, if you have a little brown paper sandwich bag or something like that, you can put the herbs into that, twist it, and hang it like that, so that way it's completely protected by sunlight. Now this is a little bigger than a sandwich bag, but it's all that I had, but just to demonstrate. So basically what you would be doing is just crunching up, if this was one of those little sandwich bags, and then tying the string around it, and then just hanging it up like that. And that'll keep it out of direct sunlight and allow it to air dry. Now these are chives, and they're also a delicate herb. So you can do the same thing that you did with the parsley. You can tie them up, you can spread them on a baking sheet, dry them in the oven, or dry them in your dehydrator. And in a dehydrator at about, and you'd want to do these at about 90 degrees, they would take probably about 4 hours. Now I've got the oregano, the mint, and the lavender. I have to tell you, this is just a celebration of the senses. They all smell so wonderful. But in any event, these three, the leaves are delicate, but just a scotch more moisturous, I don't know if that's a word, than the parsley and the chives. And these do very well if you just want to tie these up and hang them in your kitchen. And again, out of direct sunlight. They'll dry beautifully. They'll also dry lovely on a baking sheet. And again, like with the parsley and the chives, you can put them in a slow oven, but you'll be amazed at how beautifully they'll dry just with the air. So you really don't need special equipment. But if you do have a dehydrator and you decide you want to use that to dehydrate them, again, you know, you'll want to start checking at about 4 hours. Oregano, mint, and lavender, you know, may take up to 6 hours. It's really, you know, just checking it. And once they're dry, you'll be able to just strip the stalks and crumble them up, and you'll be all set. And if you do use a dehydrator, an electric dehydrator, I just want to mention that you'll also be dehydrating these at about 90 degrees. Now, rosemary is a more resinous herb. You know, it has more of the essential oils in it, and the leaves are quite substantial. So rosemary is going to take at least 12 hours to dehydrate in a electric dehydrator, and you're going to want to set the temperature at 110. And in some cases, again, you know how every dehydrator is different, it can even take up to 18 hours. Most herbs, as I said, dehydrate in an electric dehydrator in 10 to 12 hours, but some can actually take up to 18 hours. Sometimes, like rosemary and bay leaves, they can take a little longer. So you'll just want to, you know, keep an eye on them the first time you do it, and as you learn what works in your particular machine. But again, rosemary also dries beautifully, you know, if you don't mind waiting a little longer, by just tying it up with a string and hanging it up out of direct sunlight. It'll take, you know, up to a week or longer to dry, but then it'll be terrific. And then also, if you want, something that I've done is, again, with like all the other herbs, just put it on a baking sheet on a rack like that and just leave it to dry in the air. And it's done very well. I rarely use the oven to dehydrate herbs. If I'm going to use an appliance, I'll put them in my dehydrator. But often, I'm just patient about it. I'll just tie them up, put them somewhere out of direct sunlight and let them dry, or put them on a baking sheet and put them in a place that's out of the way. And before I know it, they're dry, and I pull the leaves off, crumble them up, and I'm all set. If you'd like to learn more about dehydrating, including helpful books, equipment, and even how to dehydrate sourdough starter, be sure to subscribe to my channel and then click on this video over here, and I'll see you over there in my Texas Hill Country Kitchen. Love and God bless.